Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and this is it, episode number 98 for round number 16, the season finale of Season 5, and a championship decider between myself, Pierre Gasly, and technically still in it, Max Verstappen, but all season long we've been focusing on myself v Gasly. We did have Sainz and Leclerc in there, but now they're mathematically out, and Verstappen is there, a further 4 points back than Gasly is. 5 points in it though between myself and my teammate. I didn't notice last episode for the second season in a row. I didn't notice this happening, but the championship in the constructors side was actually dealt with and actually sorted out. We have won the constructors championship. We're champions once again here at aarava Archer Racing, but that means pretty much all bets are off now. We've got the championship done in terms of the team, the constructors, it's finished. So, you know, now we're free to race, I guess. Myself and Gasly, no team orders, no sort of even need to really, you know, make sure we give him extra room here and there. I think you can say the same thing from his side. It's going to be flat out racing for this Drivers' Championship now here in Season 5. But obviously, there's that extra spanner in the works, which is Max Verstappen, because he looked so strong last race. It is a very different Grand Prix, though. The Brazilian one compared to Mexico, very different circuit. And it could be a very different weekend, because going into the race weekend, we have a forecast for heavy rain on Saturday, but it's all clear for Sunday, which means Saturday, all bets are off. That's going to be quite chaotic with, you know, rain affecting every single session, but also it means we have to set up the car for a dry race, which means Saturday in the wet could be even worse for many of us, including, I know, myself, because as you guys well know, it's not my strongest suit. I'm definitely not as good as the AI around in the wet. So I think we're going to have a tough time. We're really starting off this episode in the worst way possible, hearing this news and seeing this news of the rain coming. Although saying that, as we enter Saturday then, it's dark, pretty dark out there, overcast, but it's not exactly bucketing down straight away. So there might be some dry tyres to use here in Q1, and it might be getting wetter very rapidly. So we're going to go straight out then once we load in and try and set a time on a set of slick tyres, the red wall, before the rain comes. I mean, it's already coming down. You can see the spits of rain coming off the halo and on top of the chassis there, but we are able to set some sort of lap time on the dry tyres, and we actually keep going. We fueled up the car for 2 laps, and there was actually enough grip that I actually gained some time through turns 1 and 2, so I carried on, and to my surprise, we're gaining a good few tenths here as we go through the last sector. It's still very much starting to rain here, but the track's actually not losing too much grip, so we continue on for a second run. Obviously, it doesn't mean too much. It's Q1. We're just trying to get through into the second part of qualifying, but I was very bemused, and also knowing me, obviously Q1, we're not obviously the quickest ever off the block, so I thought I'd get in a second lap just in case, and that was very much needed, because even with that second lap and so a decent amount of improvement, we're down in P10, so I think with that first lap, we would have been in the drop zone, so it was actually quite useful that I went out again. But then as we fast forward through the session, I assume the rain has been falling, and so no one really improved there at all, and so Gasly's up in P3, the Ferrari's looking good. I mean, as per usual, it's a checkerboard of every team you can imagine. Ferrari, Red Bull, ourselves, McLaren, Racing Point there. Mercedes looking a little bit slower though, actually, in that first part of qualifying, so let's see as this weekend progresses if Mercedes will be able to give Verstappen a fighting chance of maybe having an outside shot at this championship after he dominated the Mexican Grand Prix, of course, after getting into the lead, having overtaken our teammate and ourselves in that one. But we go into Q2 then, and I'm met with just basically a load of confusion, because it's still not time for the full wets, let alone the intermediates. Very, very peculiar stuff here we're seeing in Q2, where I go out again, just like we did in Q1, on a set of slick red wall tyres. It's still very much raining, as you can clearly see on the halo and the chassis and everywhere. It's so dark. There is some spray coming off the tyres and just on the car, but it's still not wet enough for inters apparently, but also it's still there's still enough grip for the slick tyre. So very much 2012 Brazil vibes, if you remember back to that Grand Prix many years ago now, which is kind of scary to think about because it just makes me feel very old. But if you think back to that 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix, where, you know, in that race, it was raining at parts of that race. It looked so wet out there, and yet those guys were out on slick. So I was getting some very weird 2012 vibes from that, and it looks like it may just continue, basically. Because right now you can see in the bottom right, that icon says, that's the icon for heavy rain, or raining at least. And it's still raining out there, but everyone is still going out on slick. So I'm just doing what the AI are doing. I was very confused at how this was working because it looked wet out there. The grip certainly felt a little bit less, but there was still enough grip that you could set a time. So there we go. We did set a time, and actually one of the big hitters that got caught out in all this was indeed Max Verstappen. So that's a real blow to his championship chances there before the weekend even really begins and the race even starts. Myself and Gasly are through, so we're all calm. And it's, you know, both Ferraris through, both McLarens at Racing Point, and Red Bulls that are the ones that kind of, you know, see both Mercedes out, unfortunately. No one else really tripped up there. Wasn't, you know, one of the slower guys out of one of the teams being slow enough to allow Verstappen or Hamilton in. And even with that, Hamilton out-qualified Verstappen, so he's just not done a great job. Verstappen all season has been, you know, trouncing him, but the one time where it counts, he's not done it. So unfortunate stuff there for the Dutchman. But just very, going back to the actual qualifying session at hand, very confusing. So confusing. It all, you know, there was enough grip out there on the slicks where it basically almost felt like we're all driving with reset cars, like season 1 cars, because we're all going so much slower because it wasn't dry enough that, you know, we could actually go full belt. So, and it continues into Q3. So this is such a weird qualifying Saturday here in my team career mode. I've never had a qualifying in any career mode, on let alone this game, other games as well, where it's been raining like this and it's still slicks. Like, I've just never had it. So very odd. Spices things up for sure for you guys at home, and for me, obviously keeps me on my toes for this final outing then in the top 10 shootout for obviously the starting grid for a very important championship decider tomorrow. And speaking about that starting grid tomorrow, at the moment with our first flying lap here in the top 10 shootout, we're in P3, below Sainz, below Leclerc now actually as we move down to P4. Gasly is on provisional pole. We did continue on for another lap. It seems like in this very weird session where it's cold, it's dark, the rain is coming down, but it's still slick. It's still time for the slick tyres. It seems like a second run is the way to go about it. Get some heat into the tyres, work it a bit more, and across the line, and we go provisional pole with that, as we've just talked about, that magical second flyer. There we are on provisional pole. Very good. So it's so close though. Look at it. This is what you want to see. The championship decider between myself and Gasly here in the same car, in the same teammates, and we're here looking at maybe a front row lockout. Obviously there's still some time to go. There'll be another run by AI, there'll be another run by me, so let's see how this goes. But right now we are 1-2, but as we continue and start our second attempt now in the top 10 shootout, our third flying lap this is, Gasly has gone one better. He's gotten pole back off me, so he's on provisional pole. We're down to P2. Can we keep it on the front row, and then can we maybe do anything to pip Gasly? Let's see. We gain a decent amount of time in that second to third sector there, about nearly 3 tenths. Can we hopefully not scrub off too much speed as we slow down the car here down to about 2.7 tenths as we climb up the hill. Bit of oversteer. Let's see how it goes. DRS still very much activated, so it's all safe and all dry to open up the rear flap, and we're going to the line on the left-hand side, across the line. What's it going to be for the final race this season? It is pole position at the Brazilian Grand Prix for the only second time this season. We have got pole position. It was the Canadian Grand Prix last. We've done it again, and we've done it when it matters the most. You know what? We've done it when it matters the most. On the championship deciding weekend, we have got pole position. It's a front row lockout for the aarava Archer Racing team on on the race coming to this one, obviously having won and sealed out the Constructors' Championship. So very nice stuff there by the entire team to come to the last race in style on Saturday. What a weird session that was. Sainz in third, Giovinazzi fourth, Leclerc down the order, and both racing points a little bit slower than I thought they would be doing, but makes some sense, I guess, if they and Mercedes are both slower at this circuit together as a unit, of course, knowing the Racing Point car is very much a Mercedes of last year. So anyway, this is all set up for, quite frankly, a thrilling finale where two of the three championship contenders are on the front row and very equally matched, it would seem. And we've got a dry race tomorrow, hopefully no wacky rain that's not actually enough rain to make it intermediates, and it's just a straight nice fight between myself and Pierre Gasly. Let's go to the grids and see how we do for one final outing in Season 5.
Formula One returns to Sao Paulo once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Brazilian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his third championship here in 2012, and in 2016, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. Interlagos, always a very special race here in Brazil. It's a 2.7 mile circuit with 9 lefts and 6 rights for a total of 15 corners. The fastest lap today should have an average speed of around 135 miles per hour, if of course the weather stays dry until the end of the Grand Prix. And so, for one final time this season, Anthony Davidson joins me in the commentary box.
Well, the winter break is looming once again. No doubt many of those teams already have their eyes firmly on next season. But there's still work to be done here. Still championship positions to decide, which can make a big difference to the prize money. So no one's going to be taking their foot off the throttle just yet.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. It's the owner-driver in pole position then, and it's Pierre Gasly in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Giovinazzi, Lando Norris, and Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Stroll, and Alexander Albon, Hamilton, Verstappen, Daniel Kvyat, and Bottas, Matsushita, Perez, George Russell, and Nicholas Latifi. Aitken, De Vries, Schumacher, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So thankfully no engine penalties to talk about, so it is going to be all fair and square. I am on pole position. Pierre Gasly, our teammate and championship rival for this season finale, is there on the front row with us in second place. Verstappen, we know, is still mathematically very much in the fight, but he's down outside the top 10, so he's going to need an electric start like the one he got at Mexico, but it's going to be a lot harder. It's a very different circuit. Mexico had a good run to turn one before, so I will be very impressed if he is as far up as he was at Mexico this time round, but you never know. Never say never with the F1 game, and also Verstappen's AI specifically in this game. He's been absolutely lightning at times, but strategy-wise is going to be a one-stop then, it seems like, the recommended one for us from the engineer for the soft tyres to the hard. Obviously, we know historically on this game I've actually really grown to love the hard tyre actually at this circuit, so that's not an issue. So it is really just going to be about, you know, doing the business, doing the talking on track. We've got a 5-point advantage, so that does give us a little bit of leeway there, but not a massive amount, so we still need to be really switched on and make sure we try and control this race as best we can. And as ever, as any driver would from pole position, we look to try and do the best we can and go for that race win, of course. That'll be an insane way to round out this season and championship and seal it. And so with that now, for the final time in Season 5 for our My Team Carima, we go to 5 red lights to the Brazilian Grand Prix this time for the championship decider, and it's on the way. The lights are out, and it's a good getaway for us. An even better one for Carlos Sainz as he looks to try and jump us even into turn 1. We go a little bit defensive there, and Gasly's able to re-overtake him, so it's once again a 1-2 for Aarava Arch Racing, but Gasly did have a pretty poor start action. Sainz tried his best, couldn't quite do it. Of course, the reigning world champion out of the title fight now in the Red Bull, did a great job in qualifying though. He's still in third place. Giovinazzi in P5 now as Norris has really made a cracking start, and the McLaren has passed both Ferrari cars as Gio leads Leclerc, and Verstappen I think is still still down outside the top 10. Meanwhile now, lap number 2, and Gasly's coming at us to the inside. We've gone purple first sector. I tried to squeeze him as best I could on the inside, but in the end of it, I just had to give him the room, because otherwise I was just going to turn into him simply there. So he's now used that to his advantage, and we're now having an absolute scrap and a half there as we make a little bit of contact a few times up the hill, and he's able to kind of waltz past on the outside there. Just didn't have the momentum I wanted on that right-hander apex. We went up the crest, and so instead have to stick behind. But the good thing is Brazil, in the game at least, is a very raceable circuit. Here, not too much of an issue, especially with the Season 5 cars, the level of drag reduction they have, how slippery these cars all are. We're able to repass Gasly maybe on the inside as he gives us a good old squeeze to the wall. This is turning out to be an absolute classic of a fight with Pierre Gasly, and it's all for the championship in this one final race. It was so close to the wall, and yet again, Gasly's going to give us a good old squeeze. We commit to the inside. We want the better line for the next corner. I was having none of it. I had already committed to the left early doors in my mind, and we kept our foot in. We even dipped a tyre onto the grass. We made it work, and we're back up into first place. 5 laps gone, and it's been flat out so far, and Gasly comes back at it again. But this time, you may not see it, but look at that. Sainz is also in the mix there. He got his nose in on the outside of turn 1, and it's literally a nose to tail train now occurring with myself down to Lando Norris now in P4 as the McLaren sails round, and he may just do it. Has he just done a double move? Norris tried it, couldn't quite make it work on the left-hander, but he's got the Red Bull, and now he has done it. Now he goes down the inside, the McLaren finds the speed, and Gasly is bottling this. He's down to P4 as Sainz gets to the inside. It's now Lando Norris up into P2. Sainz is still going at it with Gasly, to be fair, so Gasly may still have the 3rd place, but he's dropped the P2. Remember, he needs to be ahead of us. He's 5 points behind, so this is great news for us. But no surprise, maybe, that Norris has overtaken him, because he's flying, and he's flown right past us now. The McLaren looking so quick in the hands of Lando Norris. I mean, in comparison, Ocon, I think Ocon's way down outside the top 10. Yeah, I just saw, actually, Ocon just being overtaken by one of the Mercedes cars. So it really just is Norris's AI doing amazing work. Maybe bitter from what happened, remember, this time in Season 4, where obviously he was unable to win the championship after making contact with his teammate in that fight versus Sainz. So maybe he's got the bit between his teeth to make up for Season 4 and maybe just try and seal out a win at Brazil like he maybe was trying to do obviously last season. But we're very much going to come back at him as we go on to lap number 8, DRS Open. We're going to make a bit of a late lunge to the inside of turn 1, lock up on the front left. We just about slow it down, and to be fair to Norris, he gives us a good amount of room in turn 1 to work with him, and we regain the lead, but we compromised our own run, basically being so tight on the apex that he's got a great run to the inside again, and Sainz has now come in on the outside. What is going on today? These guys are getting a great exit off that corner, and Sainz now is the one into the inside there, and he's hit us off. Sainz, what has he done as we try and control the car? We narrowly just escaped putting it in the wall. Somehow we've kept it going in a straight line. Somehow we're still in one piece. No damage on the car, but Sainz, he got to the inside and just sort of awkwardly decided to drive left and try and take me out out of the race base. We have to take some avoiding action, and now we're down in P6. So in a matter of seconds, this is all just gone on its head. But look at this. Sainz got some damage from Norris then, so Sainz will actually be slowing up those guys. But look at this, I'm going to pause it here, because at this very moment, this is Sainz turning left into a right-hander, and I'm sorry, if I don't take avoiding action there, that's probably my the front wing taken off there. So I think some very quick reactions from me to save that and save myself some damage, but in doing so, we went down the order. But I'd rather have this than have the damage, of course, because right now, Sainz has got damage, and he's holding up everyone, so actually we're able to close up to the Ferraris quite quickly, relatively speaking, to the amount of time we lost. And of course, that's going to ruin Sainz's race, because when he pits, he's going to have to change his front wing. So all things considered, let's not panic just yet, but that was a massive moment. And just like Mexico, where we took avoiding action against Gasly and lost positions, as of late, the AI have been super aggressive with me, and because we've been trying to avoid contact, we've always come out the worst. So maybe I need to start being way more aggressive with these AI. But as it stands, lap number 9 onto 10 got a good run here, looking to maybe just catch Leclerc unawares, maybe into turn 1. It's going to be very late for me to decide that, but we pull out on the inside, and we actually get a fantastic move done on Leclerc. We're a little bit over-aggressive on the exit to the point where Stroll's overtaken him, but I mean, I literally just said about Sainz being over-aggressive with me, so, you know, the game's the game. We're going to get on with it. Lap number 11 now, trying to get to the inside of Giovinazzi, who's also slow. I'm very surprised Sainz hasn't pit yet, because he's been that slow that he's held up these guys so much that it doesn't really even look like I've lost that much time with that off we had on the previous lap. But now, out of nowhere, Stroll has just come to overtake us as we look to the inside of Giovinazzi. That kind of, you know, slowed us down, and Stroll clearly got the better exit. And so the Racing Point come out of nowhere to overtake us. And so instead of gaining one position, I've lost one now. And we're looking at now a ding-dong scrap between Stroll and Giovinazzi as the Canadian gets it down the inside. The 3-time race winner this season, remember, and looking pretty feisty now as he's up into P4. So the Racing Point slowly heating up as we have a half-hearted attempt of overtaking Giovinazzi on that right-hander. Didn't quite work, but this time, deja vu on the inside of turn 1. Pretty much a copycat of the move I made on his teammate, and we're up into P5, and now we continue to chase after another car just before we get to Gasly's, and still Sainz continues on limping around, slowing Gasly up. So he's actually doing us a massive favour. You know, he may have, you know, lost his time, but now he's kind of almost making up for it by slowing Gasly down, because I'm sure Gasly would be down the road chasing after Norris if it wasn't for the Spaniard being so slow. And actually, speaking of, he now finally comes in, but that's because Norris is in. It's time for the first round of pit stops, and the only round, of course, remember, with the tyre wear levels being so low. And now this is Stroll going for the race lead effectively on the road with Gasly. Gasly gives him a good old fight though, but these two slowing each other up is going to invite us to take the double toe, the double pass, and we go for the race lead on the inside. It's a big lunge, bit wincing in the cockpit, and actually Gasly manages to go down the inside, and he switchbacked us basically because we're on the inside there, but I had to brake so hard to make sure I got the thing stopped and didn't actually crash into Stroll that Gasly just simply broke a little bit earlier and then just dipped to the inside. It did what I would usually do to the AI, so fair play. So again, we're seeing how clever Gasly's AI has been this season, time and time again, wheel to wheel. But we're now in on lap number 15. Gasly came in on the previous lap. That irked me because, of course, I wanted to try and come in earlier because I know how bad the tyre wear is on the soft compounder tyre. But again, like was the case in Mexico, Gasly had the track position, so he's able to come in, so he's able to, you know, gain that advantage. Fair play. It's only fair, I guess, in a sense. Obviously, that's the way it kind of works in real life with the kind of, you know, championship leaders Mercedes, as we know. But here we are then, coming out the pit lane. There is Gasly. No surprise to see him ahead of me, but we're now slotting in between him and Albon, so I don't know where Stroll has actually gone. And as we look on board with Gasly and look ahead of him, we've got the Ferrari of Leclerc. So he was behind all of us, and now he's ahead of all of us. So Ferrari have had an absolute madness of a pit stop, but the man who's yet to win a race this season, surprisingly, to say that Giovinazzi's won 2 races, I think, this year. He's yet to win, but he's now in effectively P2 in the race, and the man in the lead is Norris. He's in traffic now because we've got a load of people still out there who started on the hard compounder tyre. So the Ferrari may just have a very good chance of actually going and chasing after Norris for the effective race lead. Meanwhile, for us, we go and make the pass on Gasly look very easy with DRS. Bit wide, though, to turn 1, though. Jesus, we actually forget to stop deploying ERS, so that may have hurt us in the brake zone. And Gasly gets such a good launch, as well as Albon as well. And there goes the Thai Brit on the outside in the Racing Point behind me, looking on and seeing where Gasly is. We stay ahead of both of them, thankfully, but it was nearly 3 wide, and Gasly's really having to fight quite hard to maintain the position. And I think Albon has got it to the inside there. So the Racing Points are really finding so much confidence, it would seem, in Sector 1, to the point where Albon now is right on the back of us. As usual, very weak off the center S versus their AI. I just can never get the same drive as they can. And now we're neck and neck. We're trying to keep it through on the outside, but just get caught up a little bit too much on the outside curve, as we've done a few times so far in this race. Need to keep a bit of a tighter line to maintain the momentum. And so Albon is able to overtake us is for, as it stands right now, at the moment, P5, but I'm pretty sure there's still a few people yet to pit, because I'm sure Leclerc is in P2 and Norris will be P1, but we actually keep up with the Racing Point to my surprise, and he goes defensive. We're going to go for the re-overtake and go for the move on the outside, trying to go tighter on the line. This time we do, and Albon keeps his foot in, but we keep our foot in. We've got the confidence, and we repass him for P5 there. I was quite shocked, actually. I thought he would have actually just re-overtaken us, but we've got him there, up into P5, but now, Albon! What have you done? What are you still doing, man? T-boning us. Albon's gone for the kamikaze dive, and for the second time in this race, we've been nearly taken out. Well, we did get taken out this time. We've not got any damage, I think, still somehow. Yeah, we've not got any damage on the bottom right there on the heads-up display, but what is going on in this race? Has Gasly paid off everyone to try and take us out? Because we've got Sainz trying his best. He failed. This time, Albon actually made contact with me and did spin me round. Somehow we've actually come out of that with no damage, but again, we've just lost a heap of time to Gasly, who is now 2 cars ahead of us. We've now got, I think it's Giovinazzi and Ricciardo between myself and Gasly, so the championship is now very much up in the air still, and the race win is up in the air because Leclerc is gaining on Norris in that traffic up the road, so the race win's still there, and the championship fight is still on, but this is a replay then. Let's see why the championship fight is still very much on, and I'm not too sure about what's occurring, basically. It's because of this. Albon, we got the move fair and square. He's so far behind us, but then just watch. Look at this burst of acceleration. Where is he going? The room is closing so quickly, to the point where he made that move so late that I physically did not react to it at all, because usually no one goes for a move that late on that apex, and you can see that we're fully committed. The space is completely closing, and he's still gone for it. I just don't understand why he's done that. I've never seen an AI go that hard into a dive bomb from so far back when it's so feeble. So now we're 2 places back down from Gasly, and I'm not sure about the maths, to be completely honest, so I'm just going to have to try and go as quickly as we can, just overtake as many cars as I can, and then we'll worry about the maths later once the race is done. So we're very much just getting our head down now at this stage of the Grand Prix. We're actually in lower fuel, so it's that kind of thing we've done time and time again at Brazil. It always seems to be about this circuit, going into negative fuel, really making the car as light as possible compared to the other cars, means we can set the purple lap time and actually be the fast man out on circuit. So we've got pace. Obviously, this car got pole. We've got pace in this race, but myself and Gasly, both of us, have been caught up in so much action that we've been, pushed down the order now. So here we are. Gasly's being attacked by Giovinazzi, and we're looking to attack Ricciardo. Can we make a move on the inside? Ricciardo gets unsighted a bit by Giovinazzi, being brake checked by Gasly, so that kind of really helps us out. We're able to get side by side with the Australian. Can't quite make the move though in the center S. We have to keep on going and battling with DRS wide open. It's a drag race now to the left-hander, and we're going to swipe across on the racing line and get that P5. Ricciardo comes back at us though, but it's a very, very fine pinch, and we're able to maintain the P5, but we've still got one more position to go before I feel super safe, because I just don't want to leave anything to chance. But at the moment, Gasly would get 15 points for P3, it'd be 12 for Giovinazzi, 10 for me. So as it stands now, actually Gasly would level me on points, so this isn't good enough. We need to overtake Giovinazzi to make sure we get the win in the championship. I don't want to leave it down to technicalities or race wins or podiums or whatever, and so to that effect, we get on with it and we show the car has some pace, and we're able to fly past him on the outside of turn 1 into the inside of turn 2. And now we're actually trying to maybe make a move on Gasly. We don't quite make a lunge into turn 1 because we're going to be patient and line up the pass on the next straight. But I said I want to try and win this. If we are going to go on to win this championship, let's win it in style. Let's beat Gasly on the road, fair and square. Here we go for the move, very close on the left hand side. Gasly comes back at us though as we bang tyres as we go down the crest before climbing up, of course, in the last few laps here. 5 to go. We're going to be neck and neck with our teammate just about. We're somehow both jockeying for position left and right, and he's somehow actually found a way to keep his footing round the outside there. It's very difficult to make that because the track becomes so off camber when you turn right, and so we're still going at it. This has been side by side pretty much now for the whole lap nearly. This is the kind of fight on circuit. This championship fight deserves to be honest. On the last race, we go for the early break, try and switch it. Doesn't quite work, but we get a good exit nonetheless and good drive off that corner. And as we climb the hill, tucked up right behind Gasly, trying to find some space, and he's really weaving about, trying to block us off, but we're going to pull through on the right. But even the Ferrari's going to come through, and Giovinazzi sends it, and we've got to be careful, remember. Let's not do anything too rash. We don't need to have Giovinazzi behind us. We've already got Gasly. That's good enough. Let's not go too crazy. We'll try and overtake Giovinazzi if we can, of course, but let's just be sensible about this. We go on the outside, we give him all the room in the world on the left-hand side, and in the end of it, he's actually just got the drive, and again, we just don't get enough of a drive off that left-hander, but that's fine, as now Ricciardo has a look on the inside. We block him off and try and stop anything funny happening, and actually, I only just realised Ricciardo's actually overtaken Gasly, so that's doubly good news for us. So I think we now calm down. Clearly, Gasly's struggling a bit more than I am on the hard tyres. He's been overtaken by Ricciardo, so we've got it. So let's just not do what happened to the McLarens last season in Season 4 and throw this away at the last minute. Speaking of a McLaren, Loris in the lead, but he's a bit wide there. And Leclerc is down the inside on the outside of the Brits, and Leclerc gets it up into P1. So even at the sharp end of this race, there is movement, and Charles Leclerc is up into the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and so that could see him finally get a race win at the very last race. Finally, he might just be a winner in Season 5, which is crazy to think because, of course, remember, he's the champion from Season 2. He's been a very quick AI car this entire career mode of ours. But, yeah, for us at the moment, we just need to not panic because Gasly's falling away. He's actually dropped. He's been dropped by Ricciardo, and Verstappen is even closing up. And so, speaking of Ricciardo, he comes through, but we're just not going to fight him that much. He goes down the inside. We give him a little bit of a fight, maybe, as we enter the brake zone. But on the exit, I just decide, you know what, there's no point fighting him. It's maybe not the most popular way to win a championship, but let's just do the Alain Prost, the professor, calculate it, do the bare minimum we need to do today for the rest of this race to win this championship, because I remember how Season 4 ended. I hope you guys do as well. That was a calamity for Lando Norris and McLaren. The way that he was taken out of the race by his own teammate on, like, the second last lap or third last lap, that was absolutely tragic, absolute tears. So I don't want that to happen. And to that effect, on the last lap of the Grand Prix, as I've been waffling about that, Verstappen, the man in third place in the championship, has just overtaken Gasly. So Gasly is really struggling in these final stages of this race. So he's just going to add to the pain of losing the championship, because here we come. Leclerc has won his first race of the season, but I don't care. None of that matters, because we're going to come home in P5, and it's going to be my favourite P5 this entire season, because it's enough to win the Drivers' World Championship for the second time on F1 2020 in this My Team career mode of ours. We are the double champions, constructors and the drivers.
It's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions, I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
So there we have it. It feels like an absolute age, guys, since we last saw this cutscene where we're celebrating at the end of Season 3 because we had that, really, really tough and challenging Season 4 where the team went bankrupt. We recovered that entire season, built a foundation for this one, but oh my god, this season was not easy. There was so much fighting from Sainz, Leclerc, the racing points of especially Stroll that won 3 races this season. Giovinazzi was even in there in the mix. Both Ferraris were. The Mercedes of Verstappen, I mean, GG's. I don't know how he's got 3rd place in this championship still. To say that his teammate, Lewis frickin' Hamilton, is down in P13 in the same machinery. Unbelievable stuff from him. And then, of course, our teammate, 2 wins a pop for both of us here. He had 7 pole positions, but just didn't make enough of it because the racing was that close. The field spread was that close. It didn't really matter if you got pole. Clearly, as shown by him. But, he gave us a real run for the money. Awesome, awesome stuff there, guys. If you did enjoy this race, let alone the entire Season 5, probably, actually the best season to date, I think. I think literally the best season to date. That was such a fun season. So much action and so many bonkers moments of, different race winners or just, mad stuff happening in Grand Prix. It really was a lot of fun. So, guys, if you did enjoy it, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And finally, guys, leaving it right to the end to make sure the most dedicated of you are the ones that get to partake in this kind of thing. We're going to have a vote for Season 6. Now, Season 6 will not be beginning until after the new year, guys. So you're going to have to wait maybe a little bit longer than you might want to for the beginning of that brand new season, the pre-season video, but it'll be worth it because I need to prepare it because the vote for Season 6 is going to be a complete team sponsorship takeover. What sponsor do you want to see become not only the title sponsor, but the full main sponsor of the team? I'm talking full livery takeover for Season 6. Because quite frankly, we need the money. I don't want the team to become bankrupt ever again like we did in Season 4. That was too much pain to handle, to be honest. So I want you guys to vote in the straw polls below in the description and the top comment. Which company, what sponsor do you want to accept a full takeover from? We've got Monster Energy with their juice drink brand on the left-hand side, Golf Racing in the middle, Martini, and then we've got Vodafone as well. Each of these sponsors will then correspond to a completely different custom livery for that sponsor takeover. And also, just to tease you guys, each individual choice that you guys make will have a knock-on effect for what teammate I decide to go with. So I'm just going to leave that up in the air. It's a very important decision. A lot of the details you don't know about. So I'm going to leave you with that and that tease there of a very important vote for how Season 6 will look aesthetically and actually practically might work in terms of the teammate and the knock-on effect each sponsor I'm deciding is going to have. So that's in the description below. But till then, guys, it's been a fantastic Season 5. I hope you guys have a great New Year's. Till the next episode, goodbye.